Six Flags is now the third largest amusement park operator in the world by both visitorship to their parks and by revenue, trailing only behind the two big names that I feel like I'm mentioning in every video now, Disney and Universal. If Six Flags is going to be competing against the big names, they have a good bit of climbing to do. But so far, it seems like the new Six Flags is on the right track to toppling the big players. When the merger between Six Flags and Cedar Fair was announced, I was cautiously hopeful, and here's why. My worry was that there seemed to be some differences in the way that Six Flags and Cedar Fair operated. I was worried that Cedar Fair parks were going to take more after Six Flags rather than the other way around, and we would see the Cedar Fair parks go down into a decline. However, myself and many people agreed that the best path for this new combined Six Flags would be the opposite of that. If we utilize Six Flags' increased resources, industry connections, and park library, and then combine that with Cedar Fair's leadership and park management. And so far, it seems like that's exactly what we're getting. Lately, Six Flags has made some big announcements. It's clear that they are getting aggressive with their investing. And today, I want to talk through some of these announcements in the larger picture I'm seeing occurring within the company, and why I think this is the right direction. Six Flags is investing over $1 billion into their parks for the next 2 years. And I want to underscore the magnitude of that investment because at the open of the video, I mentioned Six Flags' big competitors, Disney and Universal. They're both making similar investments, with Universal spending $1 billion over the course of a couple years to build its brand new Epic Universe park, and Disney with its large array of new rides, lands, and attractions coming in the next decade that'll cost the company an additional $3 billion per year for the next 10 years. Investments of this size are hard to fathom, but they're also the cost of good competition. These kinds of investments are what defines competing at the top of your game, because the old Cedar Fair and Six Flags prior to the merger probably couldn't have broken the $1 billion mark in investment. So this number is an indicator that this newly merged company is finally able to compete at the highest levels with their combined capital. Smaller companies in the industry like Merlin and United aren't able to do this. But more than just the ability to hang with the big dogs, an investment of this magnitude shows that they are being aggressive. No, extremely aggressive in their growth. This is the fundamental point of their plan that I think is going to be the key to becoming the bigger and better Six Flags. So, what are the moves Six Flags is doing with this? Well, the first thing, which costs very little to implement but actually does have a pretty huge opportunity cost, is that Six Flags has now catapulted itself to the top of fans' list by making all of their parks available with the All Park Passport, meaning that with one card, you now have access to 42 different properties. This is a level of access that is just not offered even remotely close with any of the competitors in the industry. And more importantly to Six Flags, it increases the value of the passes, which will almost definitely result in more of these passes being sold for anyone who lives within a couple hours of more than one park. Now, in 2025, Six Flags is planning to build at least 7 new coasters. It's hard to keep track, and parks like Six Flags Great America, Carowinds, Canada's Wonderland, Six Flags New England, King's Dominion, Kings Island, and more. The range here varies massively as well, from a B&M dive coaster at Great America to a dueling water coaster at Kings Island. This extensive investment should reassure coaster lovers that this new Six Flags is not abandoning roller coaster development, and instead is doubling down on making the portfolio of their coaster parks more fleshed out and really leading the way on roller coaster development. In addition, in 2026, there's going to be at least 4 new coasters, and if I had to guess, it'll probably end up being more like 7 to 8 once they're all announced. And these coasters are going to go at parks like Great Adventure, Six Flags Over Texas, and Six Flags Mexico. But if we estimated an average investment of $15 million per coaster, new coasters would only account for about 1/5 of the total cost of this investment, which leaves a ton of money going elsewhere. And this is where things get truly exciting to me. Another big focus seems to be on water attractions and family attractions, with Kings Island, Hurricane Harbor, LA, and Arlington, Carowinds, Knott's Berry, Canada's Wonderland, and all getting family attractions or water park extensions. This portion of the investment makes it clear that Six Flags has a direction that they are really focusing, and that direction is in diversity. Both Six Flags and Cedar Fair competed for decades in the coaster war, trying to outdo each other. Now that they're merged, the coaster wars are over. And now the park needs to compete with parks that have a major focus on what? Family attractions. So Six Flags' new focus is going to be on families, which will be the pivotal change that'll define the company over the next couple decades. This adjustment in focus will attract more guests and will drastically change the landscape of Six Flags parks over the next few years, as well as introduce a new kind of competition that we haven't seen yet. The coaster wars may be over, but I think we're on the cusp of a new kind of park competition, and that competition is going to be for the attention of your entire family. This idea is reinforced by the announcement that $80 million of the investment are going to be going into improvements in food and drink, specifically developing new signature menu items and dining concepts. This is something that I made an entire video to talk about how Cedar Point specifically lacks any kind of signature food that's worth talking about, and how part of developing an identity as a park outside of just roller coasters will necessitate signature dishes. And it seems like Six Flags has recognized this for their entire library of parks and is going to be working on ways to use food to develop a unique identity for their brands, which will be fantastic to see it play out. Everything we're talking about here is part of Project Accelerate, Six Flags' long-term plan to grow the portfolio of the parks. Project Accelerate has a few other objectives as well, including identifying operating efficiencies, improving the price to value proposition of their properties, improving their technology stacks, and of course, the biggest one, optimizing the asset base. This is code for determining if they should be closing parks or not. And while it's a depressing topic to talk about, I think it's a necessary one. The reason why is that the new Six Flags now has a staggering $4.8 billion in debt, meaning that with a market cap of $4.6 billion, they're underwater in debt right now. The sad fact is that Six Flags is likely going to need to shed some of their portfolio by selling parks. I don't want to make light of it because no one wants their park to be the one that gets the axe, but from a business perspective, I think this is going to be necessary to be able to slim down their portfolio of parks so that they can more effectively spread their investment budget and simultaneously trim down some of that very large debt. I hope if they do this, that they sell to another one of the bigger players like United or HFE. That way the competition can continue to spread around. I say this because one, I don't want to see parks close, and two, I believe that competition is what makes the entire industry better. And so more competition at the higher levels is good for everybody. So back to the point previously about this being the cusp of a new era of park wars. I think what's clear by all these changes and the aggressive nature of Project Accelerate is that the company has a clear mission. And that's trying to take a piece of that pie that has long belonged to the Orlando crowd. And I don't mean the monetary pie, but also the image.
Win, I take the cash and I take the respect.
I think Six Flags wants to position itself as not the we have Disney at home kind of park, but instead as a separate, distinct, but entirely comparable alternative to the Orlando options. I also think they're going to be really pushing for growth in a few of their key parks to grow them to top tier parks in all of the possible measures and not just the kings of roller coasters. So that's Project Accelerate. What do you guys think? Is Six Flags going to be able to compete on the world stage? And what are your concerns with their plan? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And never forget that you are beautifully and wonderfully made, and you are loved. And that's the whole point. See you next time.